At any moment, any one of us might be called upon to try to change the course of events. We begin in Texas City, Texas on April 10th, 1994, where Candy and Arnold Sanchez had come with their family, expecting to spend a relaxing day at the beach.
How are you guys feeling? Are you hungry? Are you hungry, baby? How about you, Teresa? Are you hungry?
Since it was windy, my brother had tied the float to the truck so that the wind wouldn't take it.
You guys eat all your lunch?
Then he said, the float, no one touch it. So we knew, everybody knew not to touch it.
¿Dónde están las tortillas?
I didn't bring tortillas.
¿Por qué no, mija?
Tortillas and those bologna sandwiches, Ralph.
I had told my son, little Arnold, and Martin, my nephew, that I don't go into the water because I don't know how to swim.
Arnold Jr. is very nice. We like to build puzzles a lot, and we like to play basketball.
You're gonna go check out Selena. Check out what? Selena? Oh.
I feel bad because we probably had no business going in the water without permission.
I heard Martin yell, help!
Oh my God!
And I looked toward the water. I saw Martin and Arnold floating.
Just stay right there. I'm coming to get you. Go get Arnold. Go get Arnold.
My reaction was, I'm going to get those boys. They're going to get a whipping. They're going to not be able to watch cartoons for a long time because they were told to leave the raft alone. I really thought I was going to be able to get to them.
Stay in the raft.
Martin had gotten scared because I had said that I was going to spank them. He jumped out.
Martin, hold on. Martin.
Martin's drowning, so I went for him first. And Arnold was crying. He said, you're not going to help me, Mommy? And I said, Arnold, stay there. We're going to get help.
Arnold Sr. tried to swim out to his son.
I took off at an angle. I figured I could swim out there and catch him before he went too far.
He had drifted much further, and he can't swim at all. He didn't even have a life jacket. What was going through my mind was that I wasn't going to reach him. I knew I couldn't. It was real hard because I watched my son just float away from me.
When we continue. 6-year-old Arnold Sanchez Jr. was being swept out to sea on a small rubber raft by swift currents. His father, Arnold Sr., did his best to swim out and catch him, knowing his boy could not swim.
Seemed like the closer I tried to get, the further he was getting. He was reaching out his hands, crying, calling for me to go get him, and we couldn't reach him.
Arnold's uncle managed to flag down Joel Herrera, who was driving by with his boat.
He was very excited, and he said, my little boy's out in the water. I looked out into the bay and saw that the boy was headed out there. It was very windy that day, and you could hear him screaming. He was scared.
I couldn't swim anymore. I had no more power. If I lost him, I couldn't live with myself.
At that time, I just said, God, please take over my son and watch him.
What's wrong?
Joel's brother-in-law, John Matthews, also came over to help.
The boat was jammed in reverse, so, went out to the boat to see what the problem was. I really didn't think it was that bad yet. I thought as long as he's in the raft, he's okay.
Finally, the wind had gotten so great that it overturned the raft and the boy went down.
You could tell he was struggling to stay up until he couldn't anymore. When he went down, I could hear people in the background saying, "He's gone, he's dead." I thought I lost my son.
When I couldn't see his hands anymore, I thought that was the end of the world already.
Turn me around!
I knew we had a really bad situation. I quit messing with the motor and decided to go ahead and go with reverse. Reverse is better than not going at all.
I could hear my husband say, "God, don't take my only son. I love him. I can't lose him this way." That time my husband just grabbed me. We just held on to each other.
All I seen was the raft tumbling across the water. I didn't see the child. The things that were going through my mind was they're going to get rescue divers out here to catch the body or whatever, because I knew we wasn't going to find him.
My heart sped up. I just thought of the worst, that he was gone, but I didn't give up the hope that we may have the chance to find him. I just kept searching the water. It's more or less like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
There he is. Go for it.
I've never pulled a dead person out of the water, but now I know what it feels like. Just a limp, wet body. And that's all it was.
I got him. Hang on there, buddy.
It was like a dish rag when he handed him to me. There was no life in the little boy's body at all.
I didn't think they were going to find him. But God was with us that day. Because he brought my son up from that water.
There was no pulse, and he was foaming real bad. So I turned him over to get the water out. Then I started to give him the CPR.
Come on. There it goes.
Since the boy was so small, I blew into his mouth and nose. On the third try, he took a deep breath, just a big, and I thought maybe I had a chance.
EMT Shane Martin with the Texas City Fire Department took over the boy's care.
Anytime in a near drowning, you're worried about brain damage from being under too long. It was obvious he had water in his lungs because of the lung sounds. What we needed is to fly him out as soon as possible. So we made a decision to have the Coast Guard chopper land and fly the boy out.
Six-year-old Arnold Sanchez was taken by Coast Guard helicopter to the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston, where Michael Hurd was the head nurse on duty.
He was extremely combative, so he was without oxygen to his brain for some time. He did have some sounds that indicated that he had fluid of some sort in his lungs, and that can only get worse if we don't pay attention to it.
Mr. and Mrs. Sanchez, please come in. I'm Dr. Barrett. How are you?
I wanted him to look at me and say, "Mommy, don't worry, I'm going to be all right." But he couldn't. If God chose him to be brain damaged or paralyzed, I was going to be able to accept it. Just as long as he didn't die.
The following morning, Arnold regained consciousness.
How are you feeling?
I was so happy. He said, "Mommy, I want to go home." Doctors told him, "Can you walk?" He says, "If you let me, I'll walk."
He's a very lucky young man. The bystanders that found him in the water and started CPR initially on him is probably the single most thing that saved his life.
Arnold, the man, he saved you.
Good seeing you again.
Arnold has completely recovered from his near drowning.
about you.
No.
Thank you.
No.
You saved my baby's life.
Oh, Joel's the one who saved his life. I don't like to think that we were the only ones that could have done that. If someone else would have had a boat out there, they would have done the same thing. That was just an accident and it happened. I just feel like I'm a lucky person that just happened to be in the right place at the right time. You know, there's nothing heroic about what I did.
I owe y'all my life.
I felt like I had done a good deed. I felt like I had returned a favor because I had an accident earlier and I got a second chance at life. And I felt like we were that boy's guardian angels that day. We were able to retrieve him and give him a second chance at life.
Yeah.
Next time I go to the beach, I'll wear a life jacket.
You got it.
I want to learn how to swim. That way when I'm in the high water, I don't have to drown.
If you're going to take your kid to the beach, teach them to swim, teach them to dog paddle, teach them to float on their backs. If you can teach them to stay calm and stay afloat, you know, that's a big plus.
It just takes seconds for something to happen. So it's your duty as a parent to keep an eye on your kids. And I also learned that my family need to take classes for CPR. Because if my husband or I would have been able to pull my son out, we wouldn't have known what to do next. Don't give up. If it wasn't for those men, I wouldn't have my son right now. I love them. I think I owe them my life.
Next, when you